Kevin Durant's a guy, like, he's a purebred hooper. He just kind of wants to roll the ball out there and get to his spots and hoop in that way. And to your point about Budenholzer and this motion offense, this 5-out offense, that's a very stark contrast to what Kevin Durant is used to doing.
Why do you think Frank Vogel can work with this group, and what do you think are the potential pitfalls?
You mean Budenholzer?
It should be. I keep doing. Yeah, that's going to take a second. All right, we had 18 hours to process this.
We did.
How do you think Mike Budenholzer or the big three will respond? The big three will respond to Mike Budenholzer in positive or negative ways.
I don't know. And I don't want to like pin Vogel's firing on the big three alone, because
no,
a roster is more than just the big three. And I don't think that's what you were doing, but I want to be very clear that, like, I think the failures of the Suns were, it was a collective. It took a lot of pieces for that to fail and for them to, flame out in the first round in spectacular fashion the way that they did. But looking ahead to this new regime and the big three, there has to be better buy-in from those three. It can't just be, well, I want to kind of do my thing that's worked for me throughout my career, because I think we've seen Devin Booker change his game in ways that he's had to, but he's also kind of been hesitant to take more threes because he's used to playing in the mid-range. We've seen, Kevin Durant's a guy, like, he's a purebred hooper. He just kind of wants to roll the ball out there and get to his spots and hoop in that way. And to your point about Budenholzer and this motion offense, this 5-out offense, that's a very stark contrast to what Kevin Durant is used to doing. So there is going to have to be some give and take there. I think they still need to figure out Bradley Beal, like, what the plan is with that. Are they going to have a multiple ball handler attack like was originally the plan last year? Will Budenholzer be able to execute that? Will he want to put the ball in either Book or Brad's hands? I'm hoping that he's versatile in the approach, because I still think there is something to having all three of those guys initiate and having them be interchangeable on the floor. But it is going to take a mental buy-in that we didn't really see, especially down the stretch under Vogel. So it is going to be on them. They have to be better on the court, off the court, as leaders in the locker room, every function. Like, they just have to be better than they were last year, because the lead by example thing is good. But we saw how much they needed kind of some locker room fire, some on the court passion in some spaces. And we saw just on the court from an X's and O's standpoint, it looked great in some spurts. And then there were some spurts where it devolved and got a little too stagnant, a little too ISO heavy. So I am really curious to see how they are willing to function, willing to change things up, willing to take more threes, and move off the ball and all these different things that I don't think we really saw last year. And that's addition to the fact that, like, you have to address your real needs as a roster from a front office perspective. So there was a funny tweet from our guy Shrieker that I think we have, that he had said, the Suns getting ready to run it back with the same starting five, but a new coach. It's a guy who's taken a picture from different angles, and it's a toothpick in one picture. A toothpick changes everything. Mike Budenholzer can't be the toothpick here.
No,
like, you have to change things aside from just the head coaching thing, because Mike Budenholzer is not going to come in and magically fix everything.
Well, we said that. Lindsay and I were talking about that yesterday. Sure, Frank's the fall guy, but Frank was only one small portion of a larger issue. I think there's multiple things you've got to look at. The roster, I think you need a pick and pop rim rolling big, because especially in this offense, I don't know how Nurkic's going to necessarily play. You're going to need defensive wings, and that was going to be whoever you hired here. You're going to need to add that in. And there's one other thing that we'll talk about in a second that I think you're going to have to consider. But you bring up leading by example, and if that example isn't a great one, it's not an effective way to go about it. And at times last year, it wasn't an effective one. I do wonder. I feel like Devin Booker could thrive in a motion offense, honestly. And I'm sure there still will be opportunity for some of his mid-range shots and some of the things that he does well when he drives. But we've also seen a propensity for him to be a really good three-point shooter. Maybe not great, not a Steph Curry, but a really good three-point shooter that isn't afraid to pull from deep, which could really work in this. I think Bradley Beal in a motion offense becomes very intriguing to get him involved and moving. Grayson Allen is a guy that can have success in that. The question is, okay, what other pieces are around them?